Well, you want to talk 90s radio? That's legitimately the only option I had in the day if I wanted to do something like this. And I probably would have gone down the podcast route in the modern world. But you just touched on it when you said it's nice to have a local thing or be part of something local. That's the best part of radio too, is you're not trying to tap dance for the entire world, and you're not pandering to somebody or something who doesn't even exist in your proximity, or who may not exist at all, because you're just sitting there in a way imagining what the world might be like. Locally, you can meet the people and you can find out what they're doing, and you can help connect them with other people who are doing interesting things in the city. We were talking about G-Pop, who you had on the show recently, and of course that's how we got connected, is Blaine. So shout out to Blaine from G-Pop for putting us in touch. And you know, that's how networks grow and good things happen. So I very much believe in radio, and in the 90s it was the king for entertainment. It was your Twitter news source for breaking information. You know, it was your live entertainment. It was all that stuff.
Yeah, so. Man, you got your weather in the morning. You got everything. You got everything from one place. And it was, I don't know. I consider it a very, like, we were spoiled in a way, like, when it comes to radio, because radio was popular. And not only was radio popular, but the music was good. And there was a lot of it. And it was alive. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it had like a mind of its own. It's way bigger. Like, there's big pop stars and there are big rock stars now, but not in the same. I don't feel like they're in the same regard. Like, I think it was the last of the legendary generation kind of thing. Like, you don't get to see everything. You don't see them in a hotel. You don't see them behind the scenes, wherever, right? So, like, I think it was just a little bit more of a magical time, especially if you're getting into radio like yourself, right? I mean, I totally get the draw of wanting to be involved in that for sure. And like I say, and like you're saying, local level it's just a different game. It's fun. It's fun. And you can bring local people together, which builds a community, which is something that is lacking nowadays, which was a big thing in the 90s, right?
Absolutely. And it's another thing I'm careful with, because when I was growing up, people from the 70s told me I missed it. You know, they're like, oh man, we had so much fun and all this and all that, and now it's all over. And I'm thinking, it's all over as soon as I arrive. Somehow I doubt it. I somehow doubt it. Even now I'm careful to say, hey, because the 90s were amazing, and we're understanding more and more every day what qualities they had that were, I don't know, unique or fleeting now. But I'm careful to remind myself that the next generation, they're going to have this nostalgia attached to, I don't know, PewDiePie or whatever the music or whatever the YouTube videos are. Like,
yeah, buddy, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I feel like it's getting worse, but is that me? Should I mute that? But
whatever.
It's all good.
It's fine. No big deal. You do you. But yeah.
No, but awesome. I think we're in the same age group too. So we grew up in that era where it was just radio, like you said. We didn't have very much, and then we kind of saw the birth of the internet and then everything that came along with that. But to hone it back on you a little bit, when did you feel like radio was a path that you wanted to take?
In my grade 8 yearbook, they asked you what future career you want. And for the first time ever, I thought about it. And I had negative feelings tied or attached to every single job that was on the list of jobs, except for the radio one, which I didn't even understand why I wanted to do it. But I wrote radio guy in the yearbook. And nice. I know.
Nice. But how many people actually get to write what they want in their yearbook and then actually fulfill that dream?
Go do it.
Yeah. I know, man. It's amazing. And I'm in my hometown, right? So the same city that I did it in. And I never knew at the time I could do it. I'll put you like 3 Doors Down, have a song called Be Like That. Between you and me, I used to lay in bed at night listening to that, dreaming and thinking this is my only out. I have to find a way. Wow. I have to find a way. And now I've been doing it for 15 years and I just can't even, I don't know.
So where did it start? You didn't start in Grande Prairie at first, did you? Or did you? Or were you in Edmonton?
I went to Nate and did the radio television program. And then they put me in Edson to do a practicum where I did production, like audio stuff, and then hosted a radio show from midnight to 2 a.m.
The best time to do a radio show, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Did they give you
You
more
can get
freedom
away
with
with a
that?
lot of stupid stuff. Like if you have 7 minutes to fill at the end of an hour, you could play 3 Beatles songs. And
It didn't really
no one
matter
will
that
watch.
much, kind of thing.
What's that?
It didn't really matter. It was kind of like your playlist.
Yeah, me and the one trucker ripping down Highway 43 in the middle of the night. That's the only guy that heard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but and there's something fun about that too. But it's a good way to cut your teeth. It's like us. I mean, we started like recorded kind of crummily and didn't know at all what we were doing. It would go on for 5 hours and all these crazy things. Yeah, but that's what makes it fun, right? Like that's the part of the journey is all the mistakes on the way.
It really, really is. And you have to fall in love with that because mistakes will happen and they'll break you unless you just have this great attitude, right? Of moving forward and rock and roll.
Did you ever feel like, listening to people from Grande Prairie on Sun FM, as it was called before Rock 97.7, like, did you have anyone that you kind of gravitated towards and kind of wanted to be like, or did you see someone who was maybe on the radio at that time and you wanted to totally do the opposite?
That's a great question. There was no host whose personality I remember very specifically from growing up in Grande Prairie, but the impression they left on me was the community involvement and how they introduced me to so many charity groups and how their interest in these topics rubbed off on me. And now I feel like that's what's wired me to try to do the same for the community now, where I'm going, wow, this is what I had the amazing opportunity to grow up with. And now I'm here and I'm one of few who saw it. And now I can take that and hopefully bring it to what I bring or do for my job too. But radio hosts in Edmonton had the biggest influence on me. And I ended up working with all my heroes, to be 100% honest. And I've become better than them. I've surpassed them.
Nice. No, that's wicked.
It's always the goal, right? You kind of want to do better than the last generation, right?
Yeah, friendly competition.
I mean,
why not?
Why not?
Man? Why not, man?
Yeah.
That's what makes stuff fun. Like that's what makes stuff fun. You can be competitive without being an ass.
Yeah.
Right?
But,
you can have fun and be competitive. So
and
was there anybody growing up like outside of say local areas anyway that like was an impact on you in terms of like radio host or like a show program or whatever, that kind of thing, like with growing up or even later in life?
I'll give you two names and they're both named Fred. One of them is Fearless Fred, who was a radio host on 100.3 The Bear in Edmonton, and he was my number one guy. So if you've ever heard my show, it's a lot less Fred-like than it was when I first started out, because I used to go on there and just blah, 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 and he was my number one guy, and he had this way of just – and he also hosted Teletoon at night, right, for a period of time. And
oh, wow.
I don't know what the TV channel was, but it was – he became a star, and I thought that's what I want to do too. So he was my biggest influence growing up in radio, and like I said, Teletoon at night was a great program. And then Fred Penner. If we're going to go even deeper, as a kid,
nice.
I grew up watching Fred Penner on TV every day. And that wholesome quality is something that I took with me. Later in life, through radio, I end up interviewing Fred Penner and being, something of a acquaintance, or I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
So those guys influenced me. And I asked Fred Penner, is this good? Do you want me to keep talking? I asked him. I said, what quality did you have in your show when you were younger that'll now people are coming up to you 30 years later and they love you just as much as they did then? And he said, sincerity. He said, if you want to build your foundation on one thing, make it sincerity, because that's going to endure over time. And as everything else falls apart, they're going to see you as you were and as you are, which is, intentional and, sincere.
Yeah, I feel like, we all have heroes and people that we want to strive to be, but we also have to be sincere and be ourselves, right? And you got to, at the end of the day, you're the one who's got to look in the mirror and see yourself, right? Yeah, so why not be yourself? And of course, that comes across on the radio. So it's great to have that message as well, right? You need to be, you need to be true to yourself and be a bit sincere.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I agree.
I think so.
So then you made the move to Rock 97.7. What year did you start here in town?
I've been in town for just about 2.5 years now. I think 2000. I mean, shoot, that must have been 2022 or 23. And yeah, just been doing afternoon drive. I didn't know how long. I said I'd give it at least 2 years and maximum the rest of my career. And now I'm just, playing it by ear and going with the flow.
Because when we're all younger, right, we always want to get out of our hometown. We all want to run away and never look back. Else. So I appreciate and applaud you for actually coming back and applying your sense of community to Grande Prairie, because we definitely need that around here. Sometimes it's a bit lacking. We have a lot of great charities and stuff, but it's good that you come back and you want to do it in your hometown.
Well, I appreciate you saying, because that was a very deliberate move. And I remember saying at one point, like, let's stop exporting our talent. I mean, that's something that crossed my mind. I mean, most radio hosts that come to here might be straight out of school and they're trying to get out of here, and they might not have a respect for the community or for what we're trying to do locally.
Yes.
And, so I had that. And when you mentioned growing up in Grande Prairie, I very distinctly remember thinking, how am I from here? Everything is happening somewhere else in the world, and I am here. This is insane. There's a 0% chance anything ever happens here. And there's none. There's none. It's all somewhere else. And then leaving, I got to grow up and discover the world and make mistakes and all of it, but also appreciate what we have, which is a predictability, which is like a nice, functioning community that might feel a little predictable at times, but that's what you want, I think, the older you get. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I totally agree with that. A little bit of routine is nice, for sure.
Especially us pushing our 40s now. We need a little more routine.
I don't
in
know
our life.
who's 40. What are you talking about? Yeah, no, the routine is nice. And it's like, I think as you grow older, community becomes more important to you. Because somewhere along the way, like you go through, I don't know, I did anyway. There was a teenage rebellious stage, which was typical or whatever you want to say kind of thing. But then even I kind of went through like a 20s, like I didn't want to take advice from the older people. You know what I mean? Like I was in my 20s, I know better kind of a thing, right? Now that I'm 20 years removed from that, I'm like, I was an idiot and I should have listened more, but it taught me lessons, right? You know what I mean? So I feel like that draws, the humility parts, all these things, right? So like once you get a little older, you can look back and see all this stuff and then move forward with a better sense of community, of purpose, intention, all these things, right? It's about the mistakes. That's how I feel. Like it is truly about mistakes, right? Like, and they don't have to be big and life changing or whatever else, but I feel like it drives you back to certain things. Kind of the reason like I wanted to start this type of thing back up. A little too old to be in a traveling band. I don't feel like I'm going to be, you know what I mean, hitting the big league with that or whatever. So like, why not try something in the same ballpark? That's how I feel about it. So then through this we can bring it to the community and like have people like yourself on who promote the community through us, right? It's pretty cool. It's really cool. And like we're from a small town where community is a huge deal. So it's cool to see other people do that and find it important.
What town are you guys in?
So we're in GP, but we're originally from the little town of Newfoundland. So yeah.
So we had that feeling as well. Like why were we born here when we're watching Much Music, seeing all the big stars go to Much Music, and that's kind of how we grew up watching that, and we had that same feeling too. Like why were we born here? But
vicariously through those programs, kind of thing, right? Like I don't know. Yeah, it's always somewhere else. But it's cool to take it home again. Like, I mean, as much as I'd like to go home, I probably won't. But
well, Grande Prairie is my home. I've been here for 20 years, so I feel like I've lived here longer than I lived in Newfoundland. So to me, this is home. This is where all my family is. This is where all my friends are. So
it's important.
You mentioned Much Music.
Yes.
You guys remember Speaker's Corner?
So man, yeah, that was like that's like there's like the Speaker's Corner, and then like. They would just stand around talking, of course, and like people would just come to the window to start talking to the people in the window, like those types of things, right? Like I remember seeing Bare Naked Ladies. Of course, they had like it would play it like a music video, but it was them doing like an a cappella version of $1 Million, I guess, or whatever it would have been.
That's right.
Remember? You know what I'm saying, Ryan? You know it. But yeah, like
I remember now.
Yeah, there's some of these weird little moments just, like stuck in my brain. I remember seeing that for the first couple times, being like, "Holy shit, this is super cool!" Like, who does this? And then Sloan would show up all the time. And dudes from Sloan would always like talking to the camera, whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite Much Music memories?
just with Speaker's Corner, that it was like before YouTube, basically. It was
Yeah.
this little clip-sized version of it that was local. And obviously based on what was happening in Hyde Park in London, where people would physically stand on a milk crate and, speak their mind about what's happening in the city. And they still do that over there, from what I understand. When I went to London and I was in Hyde Park, no one was doing that at Speaker's Corner, but I'm told it still happens. And they don't do it still in Toronto, though, right?
No, man, like the whole thing is pretty well gone now. Like Chum Building has been bought out by, I think it was Bell, I guess, or whatever, and they've repainted it. And Much Music is like a TikTok internet show kind of thing, like short clippy kind of stuff or whatever, like no long form anything. When I was there, last year, I went down to see it. They got like just like one window with the stickers still on them, like, but it's like a new logo kind of thing or whatever. But that's like the little department that is Much Music now. So it's kind of all gone. Like you can go down and kind of look at it, but it's not Much Music. Like you can't walk up to the window anymore. There's no Speaker's Corner anymore. All that stuff is kind of gone, which is kind of sad. Like that stuff to me is like great Canadian history. Like that stuff should have been put in a museum.
I mean, it should, because like that's our youth, and to just close the chapter and throw it away kind of leaves us hanging. Yeah, there should be. All of us dreamt of going to the Much Music environment and seeing Rick Campanelli. Imagine he ran the Much Music Museum and you could go in there.
That would be unreal. Cool. That would be it. That's an idea. I think we just came up with a cool idea. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's another thing too. Like, that's something that I think is kind of missing. I know, like, there's internet stuff or whatever, but like that live and interactive icons, that type of stuff, you don't see much of that kind of stuff anymore. Like long form stuff beyond podcasts is kind of not really a thing. Like radio is long format, but in a different way. But yeah, there's not much of that going on. Like, do you find yourself indulging in podcasts now, or like you still like a true radio guy kind of thing?
Oh yeah, I've been on the podcast train as long as you could possibly be. Like yeah. I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast before anything.
When they're sitting on the couch.
Yeah,
man. And it's like
and
mental.
I watched every episode 6 times. And like, yeah, so I've been on the podcast. I stopped listening to radio. Even though I love it and I prefer it, I'm on it all the time. And when I'm not on, I'm not going to listen to someone else's show. So I do get jealous of the podcast world to some degree because there's that freedom. At the same time, I heard recently, and I think it made a lot of sense, art requires limitations. And I'm not saying what I do is art, but limitations are actually good because it gives you parameters to work with. Imagine someone just said to you, come up with an idea. And they're like, an idea about what? Doesn't matter.
Just do it.
It's too vague. What are you going to say? You're going to try to what? Like, you're going to give me something. But if someone says to you, give me an idea, it has something to do with, I don't know, gives you some ingredients, then you have something to work around and you can connect the dots and you can come up with something. So I like the limitation of radio when you might have 20 seconds to say something or, a minute or,
Yeah. Limitation does breed creativity. That's something I find. And I agree. Like, it's something I found, like I went to audio school, most like for music kind of thing, like as an engineer. So like I found analog was really good for that kind of stuff, right? Like, so you would find yourself in a particular spot because analog just doesn't do all the things that digital anything can do, really, like in terms of flexibility. Now it might sound better, but it's not as flexible. So yeah, you end up doing things, and I'm sure you've read or heard documentaries where bands, that's kind of the reason for the sound. It's the reason for that bridge. It's the reason for whatever is the limitations of the time. Like the Beatles. I mean, if you know anything with the Beatles, man, like they invented multi-track recording and then used 4 tracks to record some of the greatest albums you've ever heard in your life. And you know what I mean? Like that, it does breed creativity. And I think that's something that I find intriguing about radio, which is funny that you bring it up, because you do only get a limited amount of time. You don't have 4 hours to just kind of talk it out. You got however many seconds, couple minutes maybe, and you got to get your point across, or you got to get the thing that you need to get done, which it makes it exciting, I feel like, to me. Because sometimes I can tell, like I listen to you a lot coming home from work, so I can tell there's excitement in your voice when it gets to 10 seconds or whatever, right? Like, and I like that. There's something about it that's interesting. There's an excitement.
I do love being live. Being live is amazing. That's one thing. I mean, podcasts, you can certainly go live, but I feel like being live with the people who know you too is a lot different. I don't know though, man.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
But you say the parameters. If you don't have parameters, you end up with a show like Howard Stern did back in the '90s.
Yeah, just doing anything.
And I was a big fan of that too. So
oh yeah, I loved the shit out of Howard.
So it is good to have some kind of things to go on. But speaking of parameters, as I was saying, but for like you have a certain, I want to know what goes into your radio content musically. Like what kind of parameters are you like kind of under? Like how do you build your set list? How do you know what's playing? Or are you kind of told what to play? I'm not sure how that works, so I just had to ask.
Yeah. Well, there's a music director who gives us a music, the full playlist every day.
Oh, okay.
And then essentially the most important part of what they give you, though, is the categories. So in order to not make it an entire hour of 70s American rock and roll, every category is switched up. So it might go 90s CanCon into, 70s American rock into modern European and anything like that. And then if you want to make changes, which I do, based on what's happening in the world, if Creed has a massive reunion, then I might, punch someone.
I love it.
That's such a great reunion. We need Creed right now. A little dose of that.
Oh yeah,
positivity.
Yeah, I agree. I take it because everybody is so positive around it. The vibe is amazing around it. You know what I mean? Like everybody supports it.
Yeah, like
it's awesome.
You played a Creed song the other day, and it took me totally by surprise. I was like, "Are you playing Creed?" And this was like on our podcast. I'm like, "Are you playing Creed?" And I totally got pumped up. So yeah, sometimes we need a little. You need to throw in something that's hot right now, right? You need this, strike while the iron's hot.
And especially if you're creative. If you're spontaneous, which I am, and I really enjoy chasing those spontaneous urges. And on the radio, to have that flexibility of grabbing a song and even saying, I'm going to punt these guys so we can play you some Creed. Like, I feel like bringing in the listener on that action is exciting too, because it's like, this guy's nuts. He's moving things. It's live. None of this is fixed in place, which is like, not everyone gets away with it, but I've been pursuing, I think, that direction my whole career. So hopefully I've made some progress in being able to pull it off,
Yeah, I think you need a little bit of spontaneity to keep people engaged as well. Like that totally, like you said, oh, this guy's fucking crazy. He'll just say whatever or totally punt a song just to put on something else. And people are like, oh, you don't get that laugh. And they're like, I like this guy. You know what I mean? It's not just so robotic and mundane. It's not the same thing over and over every single day. You kind of give it that spark that it needs.
Yeah. That's what's missing in radio right now. Podcasters are stealing all the talent, and I love radio, but there's so many dry hosts. I don't get that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there, and I feel like I don't know. I remember like when I listened to radio for back in the old day of the 90s or whatever was like interviews and like clips from other people's interviews maybe, or even them just like a sound bite from something, whatever it is, like those little things that kind of like, it's not just the guy talking on the radio, you know what I mean? And not to say that doesn't work, because it definitely does, but there's something, it feels like when you put thought into it, kind of thing, it's like, oh, it comes across different. That's how I feel about it, right? It just comes across different. People vibe with it a little different, like, oh, that was spontaneous. I didn't know that thing. You know what I mean? It catches people off guard, I think, a little bit, which is good. Because most of the time you're just jotting down the road or staring at you know what I mean? That type of stuff. That's when I listen to the radio the most, is in my car. So, you know what I mean? Like that little bit of extra oof makes you perk up and listen again. Whereas like you can sit and listen, you know what I'm saying? You can listen to the radio for 2 hours and not really listen necessarily.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I try to do, is put something into everything. Even if it's every word or every syllable, even if you're just reading the weather and you come to the point where you're like, 27 degrees right now in Grande Prairie. You could say 27 degrees in Grande Prairie, and I could say it the same way every time. But when you're in there, you're like, let's give you something. Yeah. Like, we're in this moment. I want to make sure you leave with more energy, than, when you tune in, that you get something out of it for sure, Yeah,
that comes across. I'm not going to lie. Like I say, I listen to you in the evenings. It comes across for sure.
Awesome.
We were just listening to you before the podcast went on, actually.
Yeah, we're like, we'll throw it up here now and listen to it. Because we usually do a couple pump-up jams.
Pump-up songs, but we tuned in. And
we tune her in.
It's awesome. I'm going to switch it up here. I got to get your opinion on the state of music and the Ticketmaster, kind of bullshit, the price. Are people getting priced out of tickets nowadays where they don't get that live experience anymore?
I think so. I think so. I think they're getting priced out. I think the market, they just don't know what to do or what the balance is right now, and they're used to being greedy. So they're not rolling it back fast enough to, adjust to the times. I think it's something like that. I know they were just hacked today too, or yesterday. I don't know if
yes, I got an
Yeah,
email.
I got an
about that.
email. Your information has been exposed. Thanks. You took $250 to go see a $50 concert, and you stole my information. You
Fucking
assholes.
asshole.
But I got a question based on the concert. So we'll get off because it makes me angry talking about it. To be honest with you, but in terms like was there any concerts when you were growing up, or maybe even like a younger kid, that like really turned you on to music, or a particular style of music even?
I mean, the first concert I ever went to was Bare Naked Ladies.
Nice.
And it was in Grande Prairie here, and had $1 million tour, and it was amazing. But that was not what made me, because I play music. I got a drum kit here in studio, and I've been playing for like 10 years.
Nice.
And maybe Matthew Good Band live. But really what did it is when I saw Matthew Good Band live, I was in high school, and one of my classmates played in a band called Rocksmith Tabla. And
Nice.
they opened for Matt Good at the arena in town when
way.
they were in high school.
Oh, nice.
So I
That's
remember
crazy.
just being blown away. Like, these kids are rock stars. They had long hair. They were cool. They seemed like they're out of a 70s movie, yet they were in the same school as me, from the same town as me. And they were nice to me. And I play drums now, and literally the drummer of that band gave me the time of day in the high school hallways when I was just some skid being like, hey, you play in that band? And can I have your old drumsticks? I asked him for broken drumsticks that he's not using anymore. And he was like,
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
guess so. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
thanks for not, being mean to me.
Yeah, sometimes we don't see the importance of such a thing at a young age, like, because we had the same thing. There was a band in our high school that we were total
Oh my
diehard
God,
fans
yes.
of, and then
Yeah.
we ended up becoming friends with them, and it was like a
Shout
thing.
out to Dame.
It just we started playing guitar and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy how like you said, just a small interaction or someone just being nice to you in the hallways, how a long lasting impression that can make on a person.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember it. So I try to slow down and give everyone the time of day locally. And it happens, man. I got a lot of friends now that we keep in touch, and I say, ask anything, man. What do you need to know? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
If I can help, I'll be there,
Yeah, no, I think we ran into each other at the Grand Con last year, maybe before, but yeah, you're super nice and personable to talk to, easy to talk to, so I can't. Are you doing the Grand Con thing this year?
I was about to bring it up if you
Oh
didn't ask.
snap! Let's
but-
talk about it.
Because we may or may not be there too.
Well, we'll be there hanging
I
around.
hope you are.
We'll be there hanging
There's
around for sure.
Saturday at 2:30 when I'm sitting down with UFC champion Forrest Griffin.
That's sick.
For
That's
a
gonna be
30-minute conversation. And
Damn.
it's a Q&A. I'd like to pretend it's an evening with Ryan G, but it's a Q&A where we're taking questions from the audience. I'm the biggest UFC fan ever.
Sick.
And I just can't wait.
Yeah.
You guys want to meet Forrest or what?
Oh, absolutely! I can't
Absolutely.
wait. He's I've loved him ever since the Ultimate Fighter, and he won the Ultimate Fighter, and honestly, his fight with Stephen Bonner kind of changed UFC forever, right? So you're a fan, you know what I'm talking about. I'm a fan.
I pay attention. I'm not a super fan, but I know what we're all talking about here. Yeah, that's sick. I know who he is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not a huge fan of the U. I like watching it and stuff, but I don't follow it closely.
Right.
necessarily.
And Grand Prairie was such a UFC town too. When it, everyone
Oh,
would
man,
pack
people
the bars,
love it.
pack every single bar, pay-per-view nights. Oh, that was the
Even now
peak
they're doing UFC through Grand Con this weekend, are they?
at Better Than Fred's.
Better than Fred's, right? Yeah, that's new. I seen that somewhere.
Will you be there as well?
I think I'm going. Yeah. I mean, how could I say no? Forrest Griffin in attendance, doing live commentary on a viewing of the Griffin versus Bonner most important fight in UFC history. I mean,
man,
Yeah,
I know.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
special.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That's gonna be fun.
I'll be fanboying out on that one.
No, that's gonna be good. That'll be
But-
fun.
Last year at Grand Con, because I follow your guys' Instagram page there, and I seen a recent post about Bret the Hitman Hart. Last year, Bret Hart was at Grand Con, and he's the guy I sat down with for the Q&A. And I gotta say, as a kid who grew up watching wrestling, I was an HBK guy, even though I love Alberta and I love the Hart Foundation. My brother chose Bret Hart, so I couldn't just do that.
Yeah.
I had to. But sitting down with Bret was so powerful. And I can't believe how much it threw me for a loop just to try to wrap my head around it and just to try to. Every time I looked at him, I was like blown away. And I'm like, damn, this is wild. This is really childhood dream come true. And, you know, that doesn't always happen.
No,
you know?
yeah, you spend so many hours as a kid watching his stuff. You know, every match and every Monday night you were tuning in, and
Imagine
you were so
him
invested.
giving you a high five as he runs down the aisle. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
dreamt about him putting the glasses on you at ringside. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%, man.
Like,
That's a
That
strong.
old commercial. Can I tell you a story? That old commercial where there's the kid in the hallway and he's Bret, and then Bret turns around with the glasses. Okay. After Grand Con, we did the 30-minute Q&A, and the auditorium's clearing, and Bret's walking away. And I'm not trying to recreate the scene as an adult. I just thought, this is my last moment ever with Bret the Hitman Hart. So I'm like, hey, Bret. And he turned around, and in my mind, I'm like, this is the scene from the movie. And then I thought, does he think I'm trying to make this scene with him right now? And he wasn't smiling. But, of course, he is older now, and he has had a stroke. Respectfully. But I didn't get the vibe that he wanted to keep talking. So I just said, like, hey, man, thanks for doing this and have a great day. And he walked away, and I was like, that was amazing. And, yeah. But it also stresses me out. Can I be this honest? Every time I see a photo of Bret the Hitman Hart now, I get stressed out. And I just think maybe if you take it too serious, like if you want to engage too hard, maybe, I don't know. I really like these things. I love doing these things, but they take a lot out of me too, to show up and take it as serious and you know, and try to elevate it and be in the moment with whatever you're doing and you know. So anyway,
shout out to Bret Hart, autograph picture on the wall here.
Shout out.
Gotta keep him.
Oh yeah,
get him on the pod.
Right over here, behind me. I don't know if you can see him.
And Jim the Anvil Neidhart over here too. Rest in peace.
Yeah,
that was another thing. Bret was a stressful interview because he's had so many things happen in life. And when you're sitting down for 30 minutes, you can't exactly be like Owen Hart. You can't exactly be like,
oh my gosh.
All of his close friends, you know, have passed away over the years. I mean, it's a hard business to be in. So you got to have some battle scars, you know, after the years.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like being in dungeon with his dad. I mean, his dad was a savage, like, holy cow. You know what I mean? Like that whole thing is nuts. But yeah, Bret Hart's, yeah. I feel the same. I feel like if I was trying to talk to Bret Hart, he's a very like intimidating human. Just even if you don't take it seriously, even like I mean, he's a big intimidating dude. Yeah, and like all that nostalgia built in too.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's so crazy. Can I tell you another moment? There was the Q&A, and I'm trying to move fast because I'm thinking we got 30 minutes, and I want every kid to have a question. So we're going, and we get to a younger kid, and he might have been, I don't know, 9 years old or something. And I go, hey, young man in the front, introduce yourself to Bret, and ask away. And he pauses, and he freezes, and and the whole room's waiting, and I'm waiting, and everyone's leaning in, and it's like getting to a point where like, this is way longer than like, what are we supposed to do? And I'm about to say something, about to be like, hey, kid, you got a question or not? Like, I wouldn't have said it like that, but I would have tried to be nicer. Bret Hart, right before I put my foot in my mouth and said, kid, you know, basically get off the pot or whatever, Bret Hart says, take your time. Bret Hart says, hey, man, no rush. Take your time. Come up with your question. And I was like, that's why he's the hero. Yeah. He saw that, man, in a room of everything going on, good questions and bad, all this happening. And he still knows that kids are the ones that still deserve that treatment. He might not coddle me like I'm the 5-year-old kid watching Bret the Hitman Hart, you know, but he'll know that the 5-year-old has to be treated that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, he seems like a bit of a Jim. He can get off the handle, I think, sometimes, but he seems like a bit of a Jim for sure.
I didn't mention Goldberg.
No, yeah, I'm sad. I'm sad I missed it. I was there on the Friday. I think I missed the Saturday, so I was unfortunately, that thing, that autograph I have is like 20 years old, but I missed it. So I'm definitely not missing Forrest Griffin here at Grand Con this weekend, baby.
Yeah, we're doing it. for sure.
We'll have to think of a question too to ask, and we'll put our hands up, and Ryan will definitely.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe
snag
make a
few
video. Like one of you can film the question.
Oh yeah.
we'll
and then I
snag
can
it.
say, hey,
The bo-
and the year was 1985. Let's get a question from these guys.
there you go.
You
Here
come-
we go.
I'll film you. You come up with the question.
We got it.
You're the diehard.
Okay,
so you
here we
do it.
go.
You're
It's,
talking to him.
Pressure's on now, folks. Let's go.
Look out. We just made it interesting. That's what I get.
Yeah.
I feel like Forrest will be really cool though.
think
Everything
so,
I've seen is that he's just friendly and harmless.
Yeah. He does seem genuinely like a good guy. Like he's
Yeah.
one of the good ones. You know, you always hear stories, but I think he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, he seems pretty genuine.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's unfortunate we had a few dropouts for this Grand Con.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? We have Ron Perlman was supposed to be here. He kind of had some other things going on, but I think we're gonna make the best of it here. And
Yeah, I think
it's gonna be a good event.
They got some cool panels and stuff like that too going on, some workshops. So everybody, if you haven't checked or haven't even looked at it, check it out. 'Cause we're everybody will be there having some fun, and there's lots of cool vendors and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And this will be my first time going, so we'll see. I usually, from my former jobs, I usually worked on the weekends, so it'll be fun to actually not work on the weekend and go do something cool.
We'll get to enjoy that.
Yeah, it'll be a bit of fun.
Well, because it's unique here too. Like we talk about growing up and how it felt like nothing was ever happening, and there was a certain type of existence that wasn't here. Like this solves for that a little bit. Like
for sure.
It's surreal. If you've never left GP or if you've been around here your whole life and you find out this person's here, say Ron Perlman, who of course dropped out, but the idea of Hollywood actor Ron Perlman being in Grande Prairie is absurd. And it's like, why are you here? But amazing too, right?
Yeah,
No,
that's what makes that stuff fun, right?
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's,
it's good, and I'm not sure who runs it or how it all came about, but I definitely applaud them for keeping this thing going and giving Grande Prairie, some action in the summer. We go through such a long winter here that we need some excitement, and I think this event is definitely something that's one of the highlights for the summer of Grande Prairie.
Oh yeah. I'm just happy I'm involved. It's so cool. They ask me, you want to do it? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna hang out with Forrest Griffin. I'm gonna hang out with Bret Hart, or the year before, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, that's sick too. Yeah,
and his name escapes me now, from Star Trek.
Oh, George Takei.
George Takei. Yeah, I forgot about George.
See, all the
George
Trekkies are gonna be after my neck here, but George Takei was here as well. And like, when does that ever happen?
That was so trippy. I was starstruck. Have you ever been starstruck? I was talking to him, and I was bugging out. I'm like, whoa, because my eyes kept adjusting on his face, and it never stopped being George Takei. You meet a million people in your life, and none of them are him. Some might look kind of like him, but they're not him. And then suddenly you're like,
face
whoa.
to face.
His manager says to me, here's how you pronounce his last name. Make sure you pronounce it this way and not that way. It's the one rule. And he tells me a 20-minute story about the history of the name and how to pronounce it. And I say, gotcha. And then I go, I'm going to go interview him now. And he says, okay, before you talk to George, how do you say his last name? And I say it. And he goes, okay, good. Now go interview him. So I go over to George and I say it wrong right off the top. And they both look at me like, you idiot. And then George takes 5 minutes to explain the difference between Takei and Takai is the difference between calling him by his name or calling him George Fancy in Japanese.
I was sick.
Yeah, well, he is a fancy lad.
He is pretty fancy.
He's fancy. He's very fancy.
But no, I get what you mean. Like, because I mean, like he's somebody you don't think of you're ever going to like run into on the street type of, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even exist technically. You know what I mean? Like that's how I look at like him and like Shatner, people like that. Like these kind of like super legends that are like way over there kind of thing. Like they don't really exist. They're just on TV. Like, yeah, for sure.
Just watched him growing up with my dad.
Yeah,
and now I'm talking
weird.
to him. It's super weird.
Yeah, that stuff's weird. They're so far removed from your existence that it's like there's no chance of this ever happening. And then when you do, finally, it's like, oh my, what? Can't even be normal or real in any capacity. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be
It's
exciting.
gonna be fun, yeah.
But I got like, do you listen to music other than you? anyone who's into music, I like all music. I mean,
I like a lot of music.
do you kind of get your fix of rock while you're at work, and then when you're out of work, do you listen to anything else? Do you listen to rap or anything like that?
You just stole my question.
I do get a fix of music at work, but at home I have to hold back actually sometimes from not doing too much music stuff because, my job is a lot of listening, watching YouTube videos. If a Kings of Leon interview comes out, I'll happily watch all 30 minutes in the hopes of getting a little chunk of something interesting. And at home, I'm still interested. So I have to stop myself from working at home by watching these things. But I'll listen to music, like a lot of music. The stuff I grew up listening to, I'm sort of at that phase, I guess, where you're froze in your formative years.
Yeah.
And
15,
I
16
still listen to
hits
the
go.
Blink-182 self-titled record has been in my car since 2000, and it's still in my car. And I still turn it up, and I still listen to it, and I still have all these like attachments to everything. It's still the new record to me. I'm like, yeah, Blink's new record's in my car. And then I'm like, wait, they broke up for 12 years. And they put out 3 more albums, and you just never listen to them. It's like, whoops.
Yeah, certain things kind of escape you or whatever. Like I follow, I'm sure you feel the same way. You follow a couple people all the way to the end kind of thing, but it's not many.
No.
It's not many. Are you involved in, do you take on new music though? Like do you like actively search new music because you kind of are stuck in, I mean, not say that the station is like 70s based, but it is now vintage music to a certain degree. Do you find yourself like kind of out there searching for new music?
Nope. I don't often search for it, but I come across it. And if there's new music I'm listening to, it's actually discovering new, to me, old bands.
Oh, okay.
And the ones I'm becoming interested in, it surprises me. Like, there's a band from the 80s called Kingdom Come, who I'd never heard of.
Okay.
But when James Kotak died, who was the drummer of Kingdom Come and another band, I thought, let's find out who he is. So I start researching him through the internet and his life and his family and his connections and what town is he from? What was their population? What were they known for? All these things. And next thing I know, I've just got this infatuation with James Kotak. So then I start listening going, what else has he played on? And now I'm digging up those albums. And it's like, why? Of all the people?
That's cool.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that. See, that's kind of like how I feel about it. Like, I want to know. I don't want to just listen to the music. I want to know about who makes the music or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why.
And speaking of which, have you seen any of those new A&E documentaries about rock star musicians at all?
I think I've only seen the clips on YouTube, like interview clips, if that's the same thing.
Yeah, I think I watched the Sebastian Bach one the other night, and to me, honest to God, I didn't even know he was Canadian. That's an 80s hair metal band, Skid Row, you know what I mean? And I do remember seeing him on Trailer Park Boys. He made a cameo in a few episodes on that, but I didn't know he was Canadian. So it's awesome to see, if you haven't seen him, you should check him out because I think there's maybe 6 episodes or something like that. A little bit of the Sammy Hagar one I watched as well. But yeah, I just had to throw that out there that if you haven't seen those, it's worth checking out, especially if you're a bit of a historian or a music buff or whatever.
I will.
Yeah,
I will. I learned today that Big Wreck is 3 Americans and 1 Canadian.
It sure is.
But it's a Canadian band, though.
Because that's when Ian went. That's when Ian went to Berkeley. They all formed in Berkeley there.
Right.
And now, the drummer is not the original drummer. The other guitar, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on there. But the original lineup, that was the Berkeley lineup.
To me,
Ian's like my hero, man.
Yeah,
that dude is like
Mount Rushmore of Canadian rock music.
Oh, we don't even. Yeah,
I know there's a lot, but I mean, I have to put Ian Thornley and Big Wreck and all of his stuff on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I don't want to get too deep into it. He's like one of my probably my guitar hero, more or less. Like him and Troy Van Leeuwen is tied for different things, but yeah, he's a beast. And my buddy always had the famous quote. He's like, I don't want to sound like Tony Iommi. I want to sound like Ian Thornley. And I was like, I don't know, I just was like, yeah, I do. He's got the most incredible tone in the land.
It's amazing to see the world discover him because it was very much a Canadian band for a while. But if you go on YouTube now, you can see British guitar players breaking down live Big Wreck videos of Ian Thornley guitar solos
he's getting some flowers.
1990. It's so cool. It's like finally we're sharing in this with everybody else, you know?
Yeah, that was, I think the 90s, it's like we'll throw it back to the 90s a little bit. That was a great moment in like our history. Like I know there's lots of famous pop artists because there are, like, most pop artists right now are Canadian, or the top selling Canadian, artists are Canadian. But when it comes to like rock and roll in the 90s and early 2000s, like a lot of those bands were Canadian, people don't even realize. And we had some heavy hitters, and like even still, I mean, like you got Thornley and you got Big Wreck, you got Tea Party, Matt Goods, Drews. I mean, you keep, the list goes forever, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I Mother Earth, so underrated, kind of thing. Like yeah. You know what I mean? Like we had this moment in time that was awesome. So did you have any? Are there any Canadian bands that are in your constant rotation beyond, of course, Big Wreck?
Oh my God, yeah, so many. Hawksley Workman might be a surprise of an answer, but
I like it. I'm a fan of Hawksley. I like that.
Biggest Hawksley fan you've ever met, and I've seen him live like 8 times.
Wow.
He had an album called. Do you remember the album name? I'm blanking on it.
Is it the one from like the early 2000s? I don't remember what it is.
Delicious Wolves was in the title.
Oh, it's like
Striptease is on there, and all those classics.
Oh, yeah. Like Smoke Baby, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Last night we were Delicious Wolves.
Last night we were Delicious Wolves, yes. So good.
Yeah. That's an influence.
That's
nice.
And like a lot of that's a deep cut too. I haven't.
That's a deep cut.
I don't even know, the hits, right? I'm not.
I thought about it the other day, and I went and put them on my Spotify list. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Hawksley Workman. I haven't listened to that in a long time. I'll put that on the list. But yeah, that's a good answer. I like that one. That's a good one. Is there any? What was I going to? I had a question on top of my mind. I disappeared right out of my head. I got too deep into the Hawksley Workman thing. Is there any new Canadian artists that you're kind of following, like pop, rock, anybody like that you're kind of like, oh, these guys are kind of hitting up?
All the time. Last night I seen a band or a couple nights ago from Edmonton called Sparrow Blue, and they were really, really, really good. And it was one of those bands that were so good that it made you kind of question the connotation we sometimes have with local bands.
Nice.
Where you're like, oh, it's an Edmonton band. And they show up and they're like, man, if this band was from somewhere else, I'd probably be praising them as something else. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know what you mean by that.
Local,
Sparrow Blue.
And then Monster Truck, too, if you're looking for a more modern big name.
That was a band that impressed me live, I'm not going to lie. I'm not even going to deny I was not a fan. Like, I knew the singles and whatever else, but we seen them live when they opened for Big Wreck. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, these guys are the real deal. Like, their lives, like the sound and how tight they were. It's like, right on.
Yeah.
Good. And I mean, you got to have your game together. You're going to go out on the road eating Thornley, I guess. But holy shit, like, they were tight, man. They were very tight. Like, that dude can sing.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, I saw that show too. I thought the same thing. I was blown away. And then he quit, right? The band broke up a month ago.
No way. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just out there killing it.
Quit.
Forget. don't want to do this.
There was a local band from Edmonton when I first moved here that was always on the radio. I think they were called Tublo Honey, and they had had a song called Why I Bother, I think, like that. But it was on heavy rotation, Sun FM, and they played here at we used to have a festival here called SummerSlam, and
pre me coming here.
They had there was like Our Lady Peace, Sam Roberts band were on there, but they opened up and they played an Audio Slave cover even. Like, those guys fucking hit. I know they ended up breaking up and the guitar player is now a country artist, I think. But, I mean, just speaking of local bands and stuff like that, like, I mean, there's a lot of talent around here that just doesn't get, the appreciation that they should.
Agreed. We got to do a better job framing local talent and appreciating them. I think it's all being rewired, though, to some degree, to something closer to what. Because we enjoyed in the 90s, we enjoyed a lot of local. We enjoyed, one thing I was thinking about, a lot of space between events. Like, now we're always on the phone, of course. We've always got access to everything 24/7. I feel like there was just more downtime to think and to exist and to live. And I don't know how that came up, but.
Do you feel like the anticipation is what, to a certain degree, obviously if a shitty show is a shitty show, but do you think the anticipation sometimes is what makes like the experience of the show better, which I think, like I say, is lost in the internet time because everything's right at your fingertips. Do you feel like that's part of the problem?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's too much access, and temptation and humans are we never win that battle. So there's almost a necessity to keeping things simple. I mean, we don't need the most super powered everything and instant access everything, because before it meant something. Yeah, if you caught the tail end of a song and it was a truck driving by, you only caught 10 seconds of your favorite song. That might be the only time you heard that for the next few months, and it charged you. You got an energy from that. And now, I mean, yeah, you have access to everything all the time. I mean, geez. But this is how you get curmudgeon-y. It's like, I'm not mad. I'm just, they don't know what it's like to let it breathe.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
When you had a favorite song, you could have a favorite song for 6 months or a year. But now I feel like, people listen to a song over and over again where they get sick of it, right?
Yeah.
And they don't let it breathe. They kind of just smother it pretty much.
Oh, they do, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that's, it's a shame. Spotify is a blessing and a curse, I guess.
It is, man. Napster was a beaut, but she also ruined it, right? Like, or that's how I feel about it. I mean, I think I'm totally against the streaming thing. Ticketmaster, all these things are just total. Yeah. To me, is nonsense. Not necessary.
As much as we love being on Spotify, they don't pay the artists who are making the thing what it is, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and that's how I feel about it too. Like as a former artist and a person who's worked in that environment and around the business of that art kind of thing, it's like, this is disgusting. Like you got people making all the art and making what people are actually enjoying. You got other people taking all the money, and it's just not a good scene. I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole, but
it's not incentivizing to make you want to be an artist when you're like, what's my reward? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that it does facilitate a lot more DIY, which is something that I mean, we're obviously very DIY. We just here we do it everything ourselves, but it does. I like that aspect of it. There is some of like that early or late 90s or 2000s internet culture built into it, but in the same light, I don't know. You don't really cut the cheese the proper way, I guess is what I mean.
Hey, what do you make of this? 2 90s Canadian rock bands, 2 frontmen from 90s Canadian rock bands, Our Lady Peace and Moist, have both got involved in AI startup technologies lately and producing their own apps and trying to solve for modern problems. What is it about the 90s Canadian rock artist that's involved in this scene of modern technology and developing apps? Is there some connection there that I'm missing?
I wasn't aware of that personally, so that's interesting.
I don't know. Like, to me, I think, and following along, like, say, I mean, everybody kind of knows what happened with Drake's AI song. Like, it was people, they put it out, it blew up because people thought it was going to be, people thought it was like the next Drake single or whatever kind of thing, right? So I kind of get it. Like, there's a lot of actors kind of going down this road where they're digitizing themselves kind of thing, right? It's like putting themselves in the AI. Like, I know Bruce Willis, for instance, has sold his entire whatever it is, entity or whatever legal word they use kind of thing, so that they can use his likeness in films down the road kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe there's some type of gain. Like, I don't know. It's kind of odd to people to do it, to be fair, Rain and David.
I think there's
it's an odd couple to be involved in something like that. But
there's a gain, I think, in more established artists, and I think there's a lot to lose for people who don't have that footing. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, if it's something that's produced by AI or you know what I mean? How can that really help anyone who's actually out there playing the gigs and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a control, because there's two sides of the coin, right? Like, so you got guys that are kind of like, okay, I'm copywriting my likeness, so you cannot use it. Essentially, is really what the jargon all means. Is essentially, I'm copywriting myself, so you can't use it in your computer-made version of the world. But then you got other people, like I say, that are kind of going down the road. Well, I can at least control it if I have rights to XYZ. So you got people like that get involved in those types of things. So, like, I'm not really sure what their kind of gain is necessarily, but I think in their case, it's probably more of a protection thing. If I was to take a stab at it without kind of talking to them about it, to me, it would be probably more of a protection thing. Like, at least if I have a hand in it, I can control what happens to it.
What do you think about it?
I do know. What's that? Sorry, sir.
What do you think about it, and what do you think the future of that holds?
Well, I find it interesting that Rain Maida's son is a musician as well. And he said part of the reason Rain is involved in this is to protect the interests of his son and give him the same opportunities that were available to him in the 90s. And there won't be the same opportunities, but there's got to be some sort of a system that you can at least participate in that, you know, can help build you and get you places. And so I think Rain might be the protected interest of his son. And then David Usher, he was talking about his mother because she's got Alzheimer's. And what he wants to develop is an AI assistant, which is essentially omnipresent in place of family or healthcare workers for elderly. And then the AI can really adapt to each person. So even if you're unable to use your words anymore, they know you so well that they know what you're trying to say and what your new diminished capability is allowing you to get what I'm saying.
That's a whole nother level. That's a next
to me
forward thinking.
So
right?
as a person who's kind of like I follow the tech stuff or whatever. To me, as a person who's spectating, that is like step one or whatever way you want to look at it to Neuralink becoming a safety device, essentially, right? So instead of it being implanted in your brain to give you all knowledge or whatever kind of bullshit that way, essentially, it's an all-seeing, all-knowing safety device now. So you kind of link Neuralink with this software, like with this AI, put those two things together. Now you have a built-in system that essentially you don't even have to talk. It knows because it's connected directly to your brain. So now it knows what you're thinking, or if you're in distress, or if you don't even know if you're in distress, because your brain knows you're in stress a lot of times, and your body just auto reacts. So this could be potentially, you know what I mean, whatever role he plays in it, it could be a big breakthrough potentially down the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff out there.
Two sides of the coin. One
There's
guy protecting his son, and the other guy trying to further, the health
extend
of
life,
extend life
for
the human race over here.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never heard that. That's interesting. I'm definitely looking that up after.
I love David Usher on this pod, folks.
Yeah, I do like a bit of David Usher. I do like a bit of Rain too. I remember him hanging off the rafters at Sam Festival was one of the greatest moments ever. I was like, holy shit, Eddie Vedder hanging from the ceiling up there. Holy shit.
Yes.
But yeah, I do. I'm gonna check into that. I'm interested. What's your take on AI? Because and I'm not saying anybody's replaceable, but AI can basically replace anybody at this juncture, except for manual laborers to a certain degree. Do you feel it's a threat to your neighborhood?
No, because also I don't feel threatened by someone coming for my job. I'm in a business that's always someone coming for your job. And even when I was in Edmonton, I mean, there's more radio stations per capita there than anywhere in Canada. So that's the most competitive market. And I stood on my, what's it called, business for 7 years or something like that at two of the biggest radio stations there. So I don't think AI is, to me, that interesting, unless there's a way you can explain to me, like we did with Rain and David Usher, of how it's going to be applied. But, I'm a Christian, so I do believe that if you are not maybe a believer, it's a little more exciting because you might believe in its ability to reach and access something that we currently don't have access to. Whatever you think that might be, I don't know. But I don't believe that. I believe it's no, you're just going to put all your faith into a machine and you're going to, I feel like it's become a religion to some degree, and it's falling. Science maybe is falling in place of God. Now, I don't go down that road too far, but that's the simple answer to that question.
Well, and it lacks that personal touch, right? And I don't mean it might figure out who you are as an individual, but there are so many individuals, and when you go, say, out on live on location somewhere, it can't smile at you. It can't say, hello, how are you doing? It can't say, fuck, it's super hot out today. What are you getting up to after? It doesn't have that personal eye contact. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that, as much as it could be scary that AI could replace someone, you probably wouldn't even notice if you just turned on the radio and it was some kind of AI voice, unless it was too robotic. But it lacks that personal kind of connection.
Yeah, you can't send it out at this juncture. At least you can't send it out to the world to act like a human and communicate like a human. I mean, yes, you might be able to find a robot that talks, but it doesn't communicate like a human. Yeah, I definitely see your point because I don't. Same thing with music to a certain degree. Yes, you can replace your playlist with these AI songs or whatever kind of thing, but there's still an element of all humans, whether they're new or old, that wants to see live. There's something dangerous about it. There's something unexpected. There's all these elements that go into the fact that people like it. There's something very primal about standing in a group of people watching a bunch of dudes go hard on stage or whatever the thing is, right? Like comedy, music, all these things, storytelling, whatever your deal is, plays, all the same, right? I feel like you can't necessarily replace it. You can replace what you're listening to, but you can't replace seeing it.
Nope, that human element is so important. You know, it only exists in one thing: humans.
Yeah.
Inanimate objects just fill me with the void. You know, like if I'm in a room and there's nothing going on for too long, I feel like that echoes back into me. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, buddy, I agree with that statement. I agree with that.
Yep.
Absolutely. No, yeah, people, yeah, you can't really replace that human connection at all, and that's the part that you know what I mean. Going back to community, like you said, you can't have community without a personal, you know, interaction and stuff like that. So we appreciate having you on here. This is our little personal interaction. This is fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
this is just what we're up to on Thursday night,
you know what I mean?
Wednesday, Thursday nights.
We'll probably ask you to come back here once in a while. You know what I mean?
Come back.
Hey, please do.
Yeah.
I want to be doing more of this. I did some podcasting before, but I couldn't find anyone committed. And I was so tired of dragging people to what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not going to force you.
No, man.
You got a professional radio host saying, I'll do most of the work. You just got to show up. And they, you know, it's like.
I know what you mean by that. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, well, we'd be happy to have you as a reoccurring guest.
Yeah,
over
man.
here.
We, like I say, we've kind of, it was just us talking to each other for a while. We're kind of sick of that.
Yeah. Sick of
But
talking.
the idea is, like I say, we want to do cool shit. We want to talk to cool people with interesting ideas, different point of view, whatever the deal is, about anything, right? Like, that's the fun of it. That's what makes it interesting.
We started on the 90s train, right? But, I mean, like, it is what it is, right? We're always going to expand on everything, and we're not going to be able to stick ourselves in a small, you know, corner of what we could potentially be talking about, you know what I mean? So that's why, you know, we're kind of still trying to figure out where we are in the podcast, universe and stuff like that. But we're definitely open to everything, and I think GrandCon will be a great addition to that. And hopefully we can get the word out there a little bit. And
hopefully we'll. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's interesting people, so we're just gonna get to talk to them. So it'll be fun.
If you do some video blog stuff, I'm sure there's a great opportunity there. And yeah, bring me back in, man. I'm happy to do it. And I think you're right. I read something today, and I know you want me out of here. So
no, you can stay as long as you want. We're worried about your time mostly.
Yeah, we know you just finished work and you're still there. You know but I don't want to hold anyone up. But we got nothing going on here tonight. So I might have to go grab another beer out of the room. But that's about everything. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's all Gatorade and water here.
Yeah. Look at that jug of water, baby.
Is that a gallon of water you got there?
It's proper thing.
I think so.
Gotta get it in.
4 liters.
Dang.
Gotta get it in, man. Feels good.
There's a guy at the hot dog eating contest in America past July 4th.
Joey Chestnut. Or maybe not, because he wasn't in.
Joey wasn't there this year.
He
got banned this year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, because he signed a $1 million contract with a vegan hot dog company, and I think part of that is that he can't be part of Nathan's anymore because he's on TV
eating meat.
But he wasn't part.
But he did his own though on Twitter, was it not? I think.
I know I've seen footage of that for sure. I've definitely seen that.
He took the winner's amount and the time, and he smashed both of them. I'm pretty sure. So he's still the king, but. No, he wasn't at this year. What like selling yourself to vegan hot dogs? Come on.
It's not even a hot dog anymore. No. You can't say hot dog. It's just pressed vegetables at that point.
Is that what it is?
I don't know, man. Sure. I don't know. I have a clue. Nothing against vegans. That doesn't even sound good.
Yeah.
Not with all the Alberta beef going around town here.
Yeah, exactly. Get some fresh
cow in a hot dog form, and I'll eat it. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I don't even know what I'm saying.
That's all right.
Bro, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
That's the fun of it. So I got one last question before we let you get home out of this racket here.
I thought we were going to rip on some drums here for a second.
I was waiting for it actually, but
we got the kit set up.
Who's the top drummer in your mind here, or top drummers? I know how it goes. Who influences you? Who influences you the most to get on them drums?
The biggest influence in my world is Travis Barker of Blink 182. These are actually his signature drumsticks.
Oh yeah, the white ones. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're chewed up, they're beaten. His name used to be written on them, and I do have a signed drum bag, signed by Travis Barker. His signature is drum stick bag at a Blink show that my radio station I worked at was hosting a little while back. So I didn't get to meet him then, but that was a thrill. And then just everybody, John Bonham, as everybody says, John, but you find out why when you go down the path of playing, and it's just somehow he's the first guy you discover, and he's still at the end. He's the last guy you're still listening to, trying to pick up on what exactly he's doing. And
I agree with that statement. He's a tough guy. He's a tough nut to crack kind of thing. Like there's a lot of intricacies that like when you watch him play, he's just bashing away. It seems like, but he's a machine. That dude, man. He does some cool shit.
Oh yeah, like the pacing and everything. You say you play guitar then? Is that you're a Jimmy Page guy or?
No, I play a bit of everything really. Like I guess I don't know. I'm that guy I guess or whatever. Like I just like music, so I play a bit of everything. Like I started out on drums like in like an orchestra setting, so like snare drums and bass and percussion instruments and all that kind of good stuff. Then I picked up guitar when I started to get rebellious around 12, 10, whatever it was. And then I switched to bass for a while, got really into bass. I played in a jazz band, of course, in high school. And
filled in a few bands.
Filled in some bands. I've definitely done that. Then I went to school, early 2000s for audio engineering in Halifax. So played in a couple bands there and different shapes and forms and whatever, like a hip-hop thing and a classic rock type thing. And played a keytar, went in a cat suit for a while, and some weird stuff.
Probably wore a fedora at one point.
No, I don't think I went to fedora. I don't think. No, at one point when I had hair and it was long, I didn't wear a hat because I was like, look at my fucking hair. Right. But yeah. So then recently, like over COVID kind of thing, maybe into COVID, I bought a drum kit again. So now I'm like, 8, 10 guitars deep, a couple basses, drum sets.
That's right.
A little bit of everything deep kind of thing.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, snap. Here we go.
Damn, inside scoop.
Oh, shit.
Yep. That's the floor shot. That's
nice.
A PDP.
I like it nice and low. I like it.
Yeah, there's a little.
I'm laying down. This is where I sleep. When you said I had to go home after, that's not true. I'm already in bed.
This is it.
See you later, guys.
Home away from home.
Rest your head against the pillow of the drum kit. Nice. No, that's beauty.
You don't want to.
You don't want to color.
Yeah, have James Anthony come in the morning and be like, "What the hell's going on here?"
Steps over me.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to have it in studio though. I can play all the time, and you guys got to come over if you want to jam. I mean, geez, I'm looking for people to play with.
I like the jam. Jam sometimes.
I'd be down to come over in studio and have a little look around and see the inside stuff here at Rock 97.7, baby.
Yeah, man.
And we'll have you on to promote the podcast. We'll get you to call in tomorrow even. Just to do an interview. We could say, hey, what's your going on? We talked last night. You guys are doing something great. People can find you on Instagram. I think that's what I want to do to help, wrap this nice little interaction between us up and take advantage of both of our platforms.
Appreciate it.
Damn, so that would be a hell of a bone.
Yeah, buddy, that's a hell of a bone.
That's a hell of a bone to throw over here to a little old pod from Grande Prairie, Alberta. But I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, that's super awesome. But yeah, we will definitely take it on that. We'll discuss that in a couple minutes when we shut it down.
And we'll see you at Grand Con on Friday.
Yeah, sure. we'll be in. Yeah, I'll be there straight after work. I'll be there 10 after 5.
I think
at the podcast.
Ming Chen has a podcast little thing going on, so we're gonna maybe check that out and say hello to him and maybe plug our podcast a little bit too. So
maybe mention the podcast.
Hey, a little, So we're excited about it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's gonna be a fun weekend, I think.
It's gonna be great. Looking forward to meeting you guys. Glad we're connected, and just the beginning, I'd imagine, of
something fun. Something great.
That's right.
I think so. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
you never know.
I believe in us.
That's right.
I believe. I have faith in all things. That's why we're here.
Well, yeah. It makes
I wouldn't put my face on the internet if I didn't have a little bit of faith, at least, anyway.
No, it's great, and it makes it easier having great guests like you. So thank you again, Ryan.
Really appreciate it, buddy.
And we're looking forward to meeting up, like you said, and seeing where this little connection leads us both here. So
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to plug before we before I turn on the go screen?
You know what? I'm not a big online guy, only because I don't know. It doesn't come natural to me. But if people listen to my radio show, I'd be happy about that. And you can follow me on Instagram, Ryan G Radio. Nice. And watch as I don't post anything, but my DMs are open too. So if you ever want to interact, I am around.
Nice.
Perfect.
Awesome, man. So yeah, thanks again, man. Thank you.
And great job. Looks great. Sounds great. Proud of you.
Awesome.
Keep her going.
Love it, man. Love it. Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
Appreciate
boys.
it. Thank you.
Yep. Adios. Talk soon.